Here's the time-lapse version of my DIY tool chest and with a miter saw. It has 5 drawers, 1 cabinet, and it has this extendable bench here. It also has a dust collection system in behind. So I am very much a DIYer. As you'll see, I cut all of this with hand tools and very limited experience. So my hope is that a video like this can inspire some of you who are like me, just beginning DIYers, to take something like this on. So I'm using a clampable track and a circular saw to make the cuts. I used the Craig pocket jig at various points in this project. Here I used it to put what's called a plywood carcass together, although I actually don't think it was necessary. So the main cabinet is going to be small. It's going to be 4 feet wide by 20 inches deep and as high as your kitchen cabinets, which is, I believe, 36 inches. But when you're measuring to make the plywood carcass, you need to make room and height for the casters, if you're going to put those on, and for the countertop. So here I am just sort of inserting the division between what's going to be the cabinet and the drawers. It's pretty important to make sure this is all square. The next thing I did was install the lowered miter bench, which also obviously needs to be quite square if you're going to get good cuts. This is going to be slightly lowered so that the deck of the miter saw is flush with the rest of the bench itself. These 4 screws were kind of just like an extra set of hands that I could then put it on and get everything straight before I screwed it in on the sides. And for most of this, I'm using countersunk holes, a countersunk bit with, I believe, 2-inch just general purpose screws, because that's what I had lying around. So get this level, get it square. That's really important for the miter saw to give good cuts. You don't have to do this. If you just want the tool chest, then skip this step. I should also say, if you want this bigger, make it bigger. I don't really have a garage, and I wanted something small and mobile. So there it is, the saw in place. The next thing, I did pocket holes to attach the counter at the top. This, I think, is a good idea because then you won't see anything. You definitely want to make sure that this is level and square with the deck of your miter saw. Yeah, once it's all square and level, you can go ahead and attach the miter saw so that nothing moves and it's all held in place. I added a few little bits of trim. This really thin one broke, and so I had to use glue and clamps, and hopefully you don't have to go through that. I put another little bit of trim on the back just to kind of square it all out and make it look a little nicer. This is probably not necessary. All right, the next thing I did was I built a dust hood. This is really simple, so cut out the hole for the back of your saw to come out, and then you just sort of build a box with the bottom and the front open. So I glued it first, used brads to pin it in place temporarily to make my job easier, and then came around with countersunk holes and the 2-inch screws again. There it is, and then I put a little front piece on it. What's nice, the dust sort of goes back and then up and out, so this catches it and makes it fall back down. So you can build a much bigger front if you wanted, but I think this is good. The next thing I did was dust control. I wanted to make a sort of downdraft bench, and so I worked out that I could cut this many holes, and it's the same area as shop vac. So there's the shop vac port, and then I caulked around everything so that it would, so the vacuum would all be directed upwards, and then I put this little kind of triangular shelf in with washers and caulked around that again too. So I've got a nice good seal. All the suction will come out the holes that I drilled behind the miter saw. So here's just a shot of it in action. It's not perfect, but it does do a pretty good job of keeping dust down. Next, I attached the brackets for the extendable bench side shelf. I'll put links to all of this stuff down in the description. And then here it is with a piece of the countertop, and you want to make sure this is all level and square. All right, next thing, let's put some shelves into what's going to be the cabinet. I just used scraps of wood that I had from the project to make little kind of brackets for the shelves, and then again more scraps. These are just sitting on here, I didn't even attach them. Next thing I did was make the door. The simplest door you could make would be probably just a sheet of plywood, but here I am using a biscuit joiner to make something a little fancier, mainly just because I wanted to use up scraps rather than a big piece of wood. So you just use biscuits, glue it all together, clamp it. And then I just glued a piece of 1/4-inch plywood to the back. I mean, you could definitely do fancier things, but this is about as simple as it gets. A few pins just to make sure it doesn't move, and then there's a door. So I used a Craig hinge jig to put holes for these pocket hinges. I'll put a link to that as well. It's really nice. It gets really straight, perfectly sized holes, and it also has the ability to put pilot holes so that you get the hinge in perfectly square. There's no chance that it's tilted to the side. All right, so then those hinges were meant to be attached to 1/2-inch plywood, so I made this kind of L-shaped bracket so that the 1/2-inch bit that's sticking out a bit could hold the door. Here I am attaching it to it. This was just because I wanted the door to be flush on the inside of the door. There it goes. Next, we make the drawers, and so I did these kind of the same. I glued and pinned them just to get it held together, an extra kind of set of hands. And then countersunk holes with, I believe those are 1.5-inch screws. And then 1/2-inch on the bottom, because I want this to hold quite a heavy amount of tools. This is a very heavy-duty drawer. Make sure it's all square. Again, countersunk screws. Next, you can put in the drawer slides. I'm using the Craig jig for that as well. It's really nice because it's an extra pair of hands to hold your slides and get everything square. Screw those in. But then the other thing that's nice is you can turn them around and it'll hold the drawer for you. This is why this is a little bit better than just using your carpenter square. So if we put in what's attaching with the slides that attach to the drawers, pull those out, and you can line up the drawer with markings on it, get everything really perfectly square and in. Makes it quite easy. I've never made a drawer before, so you're literally seeing me hang my first drawer. And there's all 5. So the hardware went on with another jig, makes getting holes aligned and straight really easy. All right, so that was really fast. I actually have 3 videos that are not sped up if you want to actually hear me talk through the dimensions and my thinking and everything I did and explain it all in detail. You can check that out. But thanks for watching. If you like this, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.